help us understand why the ceasefire broke down and where you think this is heading.
The breakdown was preceded by some pretty, flashing red lights that it was going to happen when Israel cut off aid to Gaza, followed by electricity. Since then, the ceasefire has wholly collapsed, not only with a very heavy bombardment over Gaza, so heavy in civilian losses to the point that it looks indiscriminate. It did, in fact, target some Hamas leaders in the political hierarchy, so it took down some of them. And it's continued with a new ground offensive, which looks dangerously like it could tip back into full-blown war. Now, Steve Witkoff has reinserted himself into this and is trying to lure Hamas into new negotiations, promising there will be an end. This is going to be much more difficult than it was previously. Both sides have tripped up over the previous ceasefires. They've both broken it repeatedly. The problem really, as ever with these things, is where domestic Israeli politics comes into this, and not only their support from the US. On the streets of Tel Aviv, we've seen huge outpouring of anger from Israelis, and particularly those led by the families of the hostages, who feel that the resumption of all-out hostilities endangers their loved ones who are still there. And they have felt throughout this entire conflict that Netanyahu has prioritized his own survival above the safety and the lives of their loved ones. I think it's interesting to note that were it not for the presence of the hostages there wouldn't be much of a peace movement in Israel currently. The events of October 7th, 2023 were so shocking that there is very little opposition to what's actually happening in Gaza on its own, the carnage essentially amongst dozens. And having covered it, I would say that that's partly to do with the fact that Israelis don't see what we see. There isn't the kind of coverage of it. So I don't think it's necessarily born of a callousness or anything, but there's been a dramatic narrowing of the information space in Israel.